Welcome to Athletes, Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct. We've created a platform for athletes and other alumni to network and connect with each other and tap into various resources in health and finance and career. But more importantly, this is all about athletes transition out of sport. It's such a major issue today between mental health and financial literacy, career. And we want to make an impact and help on that. So I interview former college and professional athletes, and I talk about their journey and their transition out of sport ultimately into successful business leadership and entrepreneurship. And the whole idea is to teach and inspire athletes that there is, in fact, life after sports. So excited today to have Amobi Okugo. How you doing, Amobi?
No, doing well. Thanks for having me, Rob. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this. So I've had across all different sports, and I've had a couple soccer players. Amobi started out at UCLA, only played 1 year there because then he went professional. And he played in Philadelphia, Orlando, Kansas City, Portland, and Austin in MLS, and then ending up in the USL. And when he transitioned out of sport, he got into entrepreneurship, started a couple different companies. Ultimately, today, he works in business development at Visa, but he's also the co-founder of Serve Consulting. And we're going to hear all about that. So, Moby, I always like to talk about playing sports growing up. How did that shape you leading up into college?
That's a great question. I mean, sports is the best analogy for life. So everything I learned in life and business, I can take it back to the soccer field or the basketball court or the football field. Like sports taught me everything, both in terms of, self-development, personal development, from taking accountability to showing up on time, to discipline, to working with your teammates, to even business, learning how to take failure and turn it into wins. I can go on, but sports is a great analogy for life. And, I lived it, and I talked to other athletes about sometimes we struggle with, I don't know what else I can do. I've been, all my life is on the soccer field. It's like, no, you don't know what you don't know, because sports can translate into life, into the corporate space. You just have to know how to tell the story.
Yeah, that's great. I'll tell you that might be one of the best answers I've had at my episodes. Yeah, we've done over 170 episodes now, and that was great. So it's a great tribute to like what sports really teaches, and that's really important. So let's go. We'll fast forward into college. So you start at UCLA, and one thing I talk about a lot is just that whole the transition out of sport and like the education side of things. And I know probably back when you went to school, and definitely when I went to school, there might not has been a much of it, but at UCLA, was there any kind of like curriculum? And I don't mean just like the 1 day workshop, but curriculum around transition out of sport education, whether it be a workshop or like a class that you had to take?
Nah, to be honest, and not to downplay UCLA. UCLA was a great program, great school, great university. But there was nothing, and this was pre NIL, not to date myself, but there was nothing around the preparation of making it to the next level, whether it's professional or transitioning into life after sports. It was more so onboarding to school, obviously getting the classes that you need, and then just life as a student athlete. So fortunately for me, I had a unique childhood in terms of, playing at a high level, where I had some life experiences to help me transition to UCLA, but then also, again, transition to the professional ranks, but specifically from UCLA, not directly.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important. And I think probably today, like you brought up NIL, I mean, I think there's probably maybe a little bit more focus on it, but still not enough. I mean, and especially not only for the current athletes, but even the alumni athlete as well. I mean, so if they're fortunate to play professional, even if not, to be able to come back and get that education. And we talk about that a lot. Like we've got different resource partners. We talk about potentially going into an athletic department and providing additional resources and curriculum for, again, not only the current athletes, but the alumni athletes too.
Super important, most definitely.
Let's talk about networking, connecting. It's so important. Talk about the importance of it while you're still playing your sport.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's vital. If someone's seeing an email from a current professional athlete or a current student athlete versus a retired or former, they're probably more likely going to answer the current. That's just how it is. So you have to leverage, as my dad always says, you strike while the iron is hot. So when you have that leverage, when you have that proximity, when you have, I don't want to say when you're a former or retired, but when you have something tangible and something to offer, you have to utilize it. You have to squeeze the orange juice out of the orange. And I think a lot of times people wait, whether they're so focused on, you want to keep the main thing, you want to, perform at a high level, but you wait until, I'm going to just do that after my career. I'm going to wait until the end of my career. But you can never time the end of your career. Like, very few people have the fortunate luxury of, all right, retiring on their own terms. And then as you get older, because you didn't do the plant the seeds, water the seeds, you didn't harvest the plant. By the time you have the time to network and build those relationships, it's almost too late. It's almost too late. So I would say definitely do it while you're playing, while you have the most leverage that you have, and use that time to cultivate and build relationships.
That's great advice. And I always call them nuggets. I mean, great nuggets that athletes need to pay attention to, because you hear stories of just like what you said is, unfortunately, some people, they don't do it. And I've talked to like some player agents and all that. And so their athletes go through and let's say if they're fortunate to play professionally and then they're done and they didn't do the networking, build the relationships, and all of a sudden they're expecting just to like jump into that 6-figure job, and it's just not there because they hadn't built it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to cultivate the relationships. You can't just walk in and say, yeah, I did this, and that. Because while you were doing that, these other people were building up their careers as well. So, yeah, it's a tough dynamic.
Yeah, and I think even like thinking back to like high school. I mean, you have your friends that are on teams, and number one, you don't know where ultimately they'll end up. I mean, there might be ways that you could work together in the future, but also their parents, coaches, just teachers. I mean, there's different people I think that could be impactful, and definitely encourage athletes and anybody in general just to network when they're young. And I think one thing that comes up is they'll say, "Oh, well, I'm young. What do I have to offer that person that they're networking with?" And a lot of times I might say, okay, well, maybe they love sports or maybe they have kids. So as an athlete, people are enamored by athletes. Utilize that, like you said, and just try to leverage that, but to help them as well as helping you.
Exactly. Whether it's even offering tickets to a game, training of their kids, even being a listening ear. And some people just want to give back. The fact that you showed an effort, if you're always more interested than interesting, people take a liking to that, and they're going to go out of their way to help. I've never met someone successful that didn't like the fact that they can say they helped a professional athlete. So take advantage of that and go with no ego, because people respect that. And your network is as an athlete, your network is super big. If you think about it, obviously you do a lot of work in this space. Your school, your team, the fact that you were a student athlete, so you have other teams or other sports within your school, your conference, your high school, your coaches, your friends, your classmates, the location of when you grew up, your ethnicity, like it goes on and on and on. So it's your job to kind of build that network map, and then obviously, like we talked about earlier, it's building those, planting those seeds, building those nuggets.
Yeah, sure. And what it's interesting, I've been talking about this a lot lately, is just kind of like the networking between sports. Okay, so you're a professional athlete, you're a professional soccer player. Was there any interaction or networking with other sports, professional athletes in your town, as far as like football players or baseball or basketball?
Yeah, so for me growing up, I played multiple sports, so I was able to get some overlap with some other athletes in the area, whether they went on to college or went on to play professionally, and that was super helpful. But just the fact, like, there's power in proximity, and the fact that they know I went through the trenches and just have that same mindset when we do introductions, it's a little bit easier to get past that first door. So for me, whether it's in Sacramento or connecting with fellow UCLA athletes or fellow professional athletes, the fact that they know what I went through to make it to that point, and I know what they went through to make it to that point, that's already the first initial phase of networking. But in terms of like having like a spot where everyone connects, not necessarily. Some people have like the off-season gyms that they train at, or they use the same speed and conditioning coach or off-season trainer. But other than that, there's not like some of the platforms that they have now. Whether it's your platform, there's other platforms like the Post, the Pack, and then obviously the leagues that have their different consortiums. But not where I can go back to Sacramento and I call somebody that connects all the former professional athletes in the area. Nothing like that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's interesting because you brought up all those points about just you've got that commonality.
Yeah,
Regardless, I always say the athlete DNA, the skill set. I mean, skill set might be different just based on what sport, but still, you've got that commonality. Like most of us that played sports, and I was a runner. I ran in high school and college, but I played baseball and stuff like that growing up. Is that you're playing at a young age and you're going all the way through. So it's the team, it's the practice, it's the preparation, the leadership, like everything that goes into that. So parlaying that in as an athlete, and like you just said, it's kind of a door opener. I mean, regardless. So like I do a monthly networking event for my podcast guests, and I'll have maybe 10 to 15 on, and they're all from different sports. It's
yeah,
just really cool to see all of us kind of roll up our sleeves and say, hey, what can we do to help each other leverage our athlete affinity to help each other in our businesses.
exactly.
So let's talk about alumni engagement, and obviously at Alumni Direct, that's important to us. You kind of brought it up, and we developing these different community centers. We have an athlete community center where it brings all athletes, anybody that played college and beyond, different sports. So when you were, I guess we'll start from a UCLA perspective. So when you were there, was there like a movement from the school to bring back alumni athletes, and not just for like the homecoming game or golf tournaments, but more so to kind of mentor and work with the athletes across the different sports?
Not necessarily, because I would say the sports are so siloed. UCLA is just such a big university and an esteemed university in terms of sports. But our coach did a great job of trying to bring some of the alumni back, whether it was having them come to practices, even playing in practices, because the way the season would roll, it would be in their off season, and then also coming to games. But it wasn't necessarily where they had like almost a buddy system, or like networking seminars where we can like kind of have like Q&A sessions. It's not as strong as other universities, at least specifically in the soccer space, but they did a good job, and the current coach now is doing a great job of trying to enhance the alumni program, or getting more of the former soccer players back. But it's not well positioned or well established from UCLA as a whole.
It's just not like an athletic department thing. It's more like individual sports and the coaches.
Exactly. And
And
yeah,
I guess some of it would also play into. I mean, you hear like obviously if coaches change, which they do, and athletic directors change, I would imagine that might hold that back a little bit as well.
yeah, but there's not like a database where you can see former UCLA student athletes and then like pick them by sport and see if there's synergy based on industries and pathways. That would be great. And I know that's something that you're doing.
Yeah, and how about from a soccer perspective? So like, is there anything that they're doing in the MLS or USL to kind of do like an alumni type thing? And again, not just for like the 1 day thing, but just trying to bring the soccer alumni together.
Yes, the MLSPA does a great job of that. The MLS player engagement community does a great job of that. Both platforms have databases where you can connect with former MLS players. On the MLS player engagement side, they call them MLS greats. And then on the MLS PA side, the Players Association, they have a full service database that creates that connection. In fact, the MLSPA is actually building out like almost like a mentorship platform for current players to connect with former players on just different things, whether it's mental health, financial literacy, career transition, just life on and off the soccer field. So they've done a great job, the leaders on both sides of those platforms, to really build out. The USL is a little bit different because it's a younger league and less resources, but they're also trying to do a good job of curating those resources to continue to build that pipeline, that conveyor belt from current player to former player to retired player to even young player that's trying to come up. So I've had the fortunate pleasure of working with all three organizations in some capacity to assist with some of those efforts. But as we all know, it can continue to get better, and that's
Right.
the plan. As more resources come in, as more players that are more engaged in some of the stuff and willing to share, get more involved.
Oh, that's great. So yeah, I think it sounds like the soccer league's doing a much better job than some of the others. I mean, I've talked to like former NFL players and Major League Baseball players, and even tying to like minor league baseball players, and they have programs, but it doesn't seem like they do a lot to facilitate. I mean, I guess it depends on who you talk to. Some of the maybe the star athletes seem like they might get a little, I don't want to say preferential treatment, but there might be easier for them versus some of these other athletes that play.
No, you're exactly right, and that brings me back to my our point earlier that you mentioned, where you have to try to take advantage of while you're a current athlete, because it's harder to get some answers when you're a former athlete. When some of these uh, employees and executives, I mean, their main focus is building the product, and that's the current athletes. So taking advantage while you're current, and then also being proactive, can help a little bit more.
Okay, great. So I don't know if you got a chance to watch or listen to the episodes. My fun questions I always ask, and they're not crazy or anything like that. So don't worry about that. But so if you were able to go back in time,
Yeah.
And go back to your freshman year at UCLA, what advice would you give to freshman Amobi? 10 words or less.
10 words or less? Ooh, I have my answer. Then you said that you added that part. I was like, ooh. Meet more people. Yeah, that's my meet more people. I was so focused on, making sure I got my grades and then making sure I performed well that I didn't engage. Like, the UCLA alumni is so strong. The UCLA network is so strong. Like, you have kids from all over, son of Hollywood exec, son of daughter of this, diplomat of that, future CEO. If you can build some of those relationships, I think a lot of people are focused on networking up, but they don't network across or down. Um, that would have been my advice. Meet more people, build those relationships, because I'm in a place now where I'm meeting folks and I'm like, oh, you went to UCLA? What years were you there? I mean, I was only there for 1 year, but those are relationships that I could have been building over time.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, it's funny. It just popped in my head. So I've had, of my podcast guests I mentioned, I've had two other UCLA alum. I had one of my original first episodes. I had Hannah Valenzuela, who was a track cross country runner there.
Okay.
Prominent. And then I also had Brett Hundley on.
Oh, nice. Yeah. No, he wasn't there when I was there. He was there. I would come back and train and stuff, and he was the quarterback at the time.
Okay. Yeah. Good guy. Real nice
Yeah.
guy. So now, so fast forward. Now I know you didn't, you left after your freshman year to go professionally, but I guess we'll kind of take it to the level of, like, maybe after being out maybe a year or 2, 3 years as a professional, what advice would you give to that version of Amobi? Okay, so let's fast forward to, I guess, senior age Amobi. So, I mean, you left after the first year to go play professionally, but I guess, say maybe like 21, 22. What advice, 10 words or less, would you give to him?
That's a good one. Check in. I would say check in. My story was unique. I went to UCLA my freshman year, then I went pro. I was going back to UCLA in the off season just to train, because I was I had pushed my credits to go and ultimately finish my bachelor's through the Generation of Leadership program. So that's a whole nother thing. Those are things that I could have checked in with my coach, checked in with my former teammates, checked in with, just using that fact that I was a professional athlete at that young age to open up doors with UCLA alumni, UCLA current students that I had grown up my freshman year with. That's something, obviously, when you're pro, you're not really thinking about, because it's a whole different ball game. But you never know. Some of my former teammates would end up going pro as well. My coach, you never know if he moves on to another situation. Classmates doing their own thing. I look at situations now with top athletes working in conjunction with some of their students, whether they're their former teammates or someone they met in one of their classes. I feel like that could have been a situation for me if I would have checked in more.
Okay. Let's switch topics and let's talk about NIL, and we're going to talk about quickly name, image, likeness, and like you said, it came after your time there. But give me some brief thoughts, positive and negative, on NIL and how it's kind of I guess affected the soccer world.
Yeah, to be honest, it's affected the soccer world a little bit. I think you see more on the women's side, just because some of the women athletes are a lot better when it comes to branding. If you look at NIL, name, image, and likeness, from a digital, social perspective, um, they're getting a lot of NIL dollars allocated towards them. On the men's side, it's a little bit different. Some schools are doing it well, some schools aren't. I don't want to make generalizations, but generally, there's only a few men that are really benefiting from NIL. and that's because they're being proactive about, doing some of the work that allows you to take advantage of NIL. It's not nearly the case, if you're going to compare it to like football and basketball.
Right.
But NIL, the fact that you have the ability and the option to do it, it's amazing. I think of NIL different. NIL, the acronym is name, image, and likeness. Some of the work that we do with student athletes is, you need to take a new form of what NIL means. So we say NIL, and I think you'll like this one, is NIL is network. Use NIL as a network, not just within your school, but all the local businesses that you're allowed to connect with. And then as you continue to build, you can go regional. And then obviously, if you're a big, you can take it to a national level. But the fact that you have this leverage now, take advantage of your network for NIL. The second one is your intellectual property. So now that you have the opportunity to make money, do different things, what are the ideas that you want to take advantage of to bring to life? Is it a merch line? Is it products? Is it whatever it could be? Is it foundation? You're seeing so many amazing things that some of these young college student athletes are doing because they have the ability to take advantage of their IP as a collegiate athlete. And then the last one, I already mentioned it a little bit, is just the leverage. You have 4 years of college sports. Some cases now, that's a whole other topic. You get 6 or 7 because of all these different things, but you're only in college for so long. So how are you going to leverage this unique time that allows you to take advantage of NIL? So that's another way to look at NIL that we like to harp on, because not everyone's going to get the big dollars like a star Power 4 quarterback, but you still have the ability to do some amazing things, whether it's, working with a local shop or connecting with, a private equity firm where the CEO or the managing partners, loves college football, or you used to play soccer back in the day. You never know. So it's really exciting. Obviously, some of the negatives is you think you're pro before you are. You think you've arrived before you are. You're losing sight of what it means to be a collegiate athlete. You're transferring from here to there to there to here. Like, you can't, by the time you're done with college, you're at 6 different schools. How is that possible? But hopefully the organizations that are, kind of leading the charge can continue to fine tune and fix it. And NIL, I think it's net positive at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. And I think one of the keys, I know we'll talk a little more about it when we're talking about like what you're doing today, but like the education side of things, I think there needs to be more of it. I mean, and you brought up so many great points, because I think, I've got a buddy that he's got an NIL education company. And they work with high school with the athletes and their parents, because you got to pay taxes, set up an LLC, and to your point with the branding, and then just with the relationships. I mean, you're setting up yourself as a brand and a company, and the people that you're working with, like you said, different, organizations, advertisers, sponsors, whatever it might be. Build those relationships, because when you're done playing, maybe they hire you, or you're working with them. I mean, there's so many different avenues. So that was great. I'm glad you brought up those different topics there. I like the whole spin on it with the NIL.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about transition out of sport. And for you, you played many years professionally. You played your whole life. You started as a kid, had great success, played in college, played professionally. What was your transition like when you were now done with your playing days?
Yeah, I would like to say my transition was smooth, because I had already been taking steps. I always tell a funny story. When I first got drafted, my dad had said, everyone's texting me congratulations. My mom's hugging me, my everyone's celebrating. And my dad, while he did congratulate me, he said one thing that always sticks with me. He said, "You're closer to the end of your career than the start of it. Good luck." And I was like, "How? What? What do you mean? How is that possible? I just started." And he was like, "Yeah, now that you started, you can't go backwards. You're going to be closer to the end of your career than the start of it." So that always stuck with me. My parents were really big on education. So even while I left early, I was still continuing my education, ultimately getting my starting with my associates, getting my bachelor's, and getting my master's while playing. So that's something I'm very proud of. But the transition I tell people it's going to take a good 3 years. And this is the reason why. The first year after you retire, you still think you can play. You're still like, ooh, you're still taking calls from your agent. You know, it's just maybe you didn't like the situation, or you left on bad terms, or you you want something that you want to say yes to. The second year, you're like finally come to terms with it. Like you're not telling people, oh yeah, I play for so and so. You're actually introducing yourself as something other than an athlete. And then third year, by that time, in most cases, you've established yourself in that new lane. Sometimes, to be honest, sometimes it takes people longer. Sometimes it takes people shorter. I would say my transition was a lot shorter, but I tell people, it's going to give yourself 3 years to really get into that next chapter. It's all about finding your second game, because a lot of times people don't find that second game where they feel that same passion, that same drive that they do in sports.
Yeah, and that's great advice. I mean, I like that, the 3 year plan there. And I guess the biggest thing is, and it sounds like you said you did it, I mean, between taking classes and school and everything else along the way, is just, constantly preparing yourself. And a lot of athletes talk about that, is just having that plan B, plan C as you're still playing, so that when the time does come up, that you're not just out there. And I think the other thing too is just people want help, and we'll get into this, like what you're doing. People want to help, and so a lot of athletes. I mean, you hear some sad stories about when they're done, and just kind of the spiraling that happens afterwards, and just know that people are out there to help, and they want to make an impact.
Yeah, most definitely. The right people are willing to help. Some of them, they want to help you when stuff is sweet, but when it's not, they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah, that's true. I hear a lot of those stories too.
Yeah.
So we'll fast forward. So you basically you got into entrepreneurship. You said, like, when you were done and had some ideas, and so maybe talk a little bit about that, and how you, I guess, parlayed your athlete DNA skill set into becoming an entrepreneur, taking it all the way up to today and what you're doing today.
No, most definitely, yeah. So I'll give you a quick rundown. So while I was playing, I'm sure you're familiar with it. The 30 for 30 Broke documentary came out, and it was mostly about athletes that unfortunately found themselves in financial uncertainty for whatever reason, bad decisions, emotional blackmail, bad advisors, whatever. So I watched that and I was immediately inspired, just because I played soccer. So it's at a different level than the NBA, NFL, MLB, hockey. So I was like, all right, I said what they did. I don't want to do that. Where can I find athletes that are doing it the right way? Outside of like the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryants, the Tom Brady's of the world. Those are 1% of the 1%. There's a bunch of athletes that are going to have to work at their retire. So how can I find the ones that I need to role model? I'm sure there's a playbook. As I did research online, couldn't really find anything. It was more stories about this athlete lost this much, this athlete's in bankruptcy, this athlete's suffering from financial distress. So I talked to a couple buddies and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a platform that talks about athletes doing it the right way, making smart, prudent financial and career decisions to build a smooth transition. Called it A Frugal Athlete because some of my teammates would joke around that I was cheap, but I wanted to do a play on words. It's like, no, I'm not cheap, I'm frugal. So A Frugal Athlete was my first venture while I was playing. Essentially, it was like a financial media education platform. We had like a blog, we did a podcast, we would take sponsorships to create content, and then we do some coaching and workshops. So that was my first foray into entrepreneurship. I tell people all the time, like, I had no idea what I was doing. It was more, it looked cool until that second year when I kind of learned a little bit more. And then from there, transitioned into some consulting because of the stuff I was doing with the Frugal Athlete. People would ask me to consult on how to educate their students or how to educate the athletes that they represent. So that's kind of where I got into a little bit of consulting, and from there, transitioned into surf consulting, which I co-founded with my business partner Adrian, who I know you know, and we do a little bit different things. I think our main focus is we still lead with education and empowerment. We help athletes, organizations, nonprofits with their program and curriculum design. So whether it's doing workshops, whether it's helping athletes with their social impact initiatives, That's our main focus right now. While we got away from A Frugal Athlete, we still have A Frugal Athlete and some of our education pathways, our Athlete CEO brand, under the umbrella. Everything we do leads with education and empowerment.
And so, is it a platform that's, and I guess access to really, it's probably just any online, right? So, I mean, anybody can access it, like, all around the country, all around the world, for that matter.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we do have some online capabilities, whether it's you're looking for an online program to educate, or we'll come on site to help, or we'll work with an athlete or an organization. It could be a school, a university, or a nonprofit to just help them with their program design if they're looking to build out a financial literacy program, a personal development program, social impact program, whatever that looks like. That's where we come in and help with their go-to-market, their delivery, and then obviously concept and ideation and design.
And then that's something that, like, you travel to as well. It's not like just, is it just within your region, or are you pretty much just, if you've
Oh
got
no, yeah, we're willing to go anywhere. It could be I'll fly anywhere, window seat, aisle seat, middle seat. We're
there
willing
you
to
go.
go.
Moby's ready to go, man. Just
Yeah.
everybody out there, let's go. We gotta look them up and find out what they're doing. So, no, it's great. You said you do some business development at Visa too, which is always good to have.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. So, yeah, there's no cap in my raps, So we're not at a point where I can be a full-time entrepreneur. So a Visa is a great job for me to not only learn the business of Visa, because I've always been interested in, the payment space, personal finance space, but also learn how a corporation does it, and then also take some of the resources that I'm learning at Visa to apply to my business. Obviously, they're not conflicting, and gotta perform at a high level to be able to do both. But healthcare is not bad. 401k is not bad. And when I was doing full-time entrepreneurship, we had good months, we had bad months. When you have those bad months and you have to pay for healthcare and all that stuff on your own, you're like, whoa, okay, so yeah, it's good. So for anyone that
I'm with you on that, man. I'm living that dream.
yeah. So for anyone that's like, you got to burn the boats, yes, at some point you will, but I caution everyone, make sure you have your run rate, make sure you have your plan of attack, and then go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can people find you?
Yeah, appreciate you giving me the chance to share. People can find me at Amobi Okugo on LinkedIn, or Amobi Says on Instagram, projects at amobiokugo.com for email, or serve.consulting if you want to check out some of the stuff we do around education and empowerment.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely check out Amobi's website. Connect with them. I mean, this has been great. It's very interesting dynamic talking to different athletes across different sports, for sure. And you can find us at alumnidirect.com. You can find Athletes Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey, on our YouTube channel, as well as across all the different podcast networks. And I really encourage athletes and people just to watch, listen to these episodes. I mean, there's such great nuggets, as I say, every week from our guests like Amobi. And I think we really want to help make an impact on athletes out there and make a difference in helping them in their transition and many years to come.
No, thank you so much for giving me the platform. What you're building is truly amazing. I definitely, people think athletes specifically don't take advantage of their alumni network. That's one of the first things you should do when you meet someone. Like, check out their alumni, where they went to school, where they're from. Yeah, alumni is not just like your university,